Hello everyone, this is Avi Bhardwaj and I'm back with lecture series on science. Today's topic is going to be a little bit about the different life forms we see on our planet and also throughout the universe. There is definitely life existing outside the solar system, outside our galaxy, within our galaxy, plus throughout the universe. That is my feeling. But what I want to talk about is that when we talk about, say, our universe, and we also talk about, and we know that there are multiverses, but let's see about other type of, universes, and I call these as organic universes. I haven't, you know, read a lot about these. I have not even seen a lot of scientists talking about it, but I personally feel that these are universes within universe, and I call these life forms as organic universe. In my perception, what I think is all the life forms, all the multicellular life form we see on our planet, and all the life there is, different life forms there is in our universe, definitely qualify for the micro universes concept. So my theory here is that when we observe life, the multicellular life, and I'll tell you why I think what I think. So when you look at, for instance, any life form, including us, we start as one single cell, the zygote, and then that cell divides, multiplies, make copies of itself, and in the process reads the DNA and create this gigantic bodies like humans, elephants, all the life forms you see, trees, right? All coming from that one single electron microscopic cell, which is making copies of it, reading the DNA and making copies of it. In the process, it creates different type of organs, it creates different type of muscles, the bones, whatever you see inside our body. And all the material for our body is coming through the food. That means it's coming from our planet Earth. So we are extension of this planet, number one. But the cell makes sure that how much it requires. So it's basically a computer program. It doesn't take more or less. So and DNA tells how much the height is gonna be, how much weight is, probably everything. It decides everything, how you're gonna look like. But most importantly, it retains only what is required. And when you reach your adulthood, you have attained whatever it needs from the planet Earth, and then it's just the process of keeping that balance throughout your life. But what happened if you pay attention to it? So that one single cell, which was microscopic cell, you know created this gigantic universe around it by copying itself, getting the material from Earth, and created a universe now, which is, in my terminology, I call it as organic universes. That means that each one of us in itself is a universe, but it's in comparison to the actual universe, we are like micro universes. We are made of the same material. We have the matter, whatever there is on planet Earth, and all this matter came from different star systems. So we are connected to the bigger universe, but we are all universe ourselves. That is very important to know. But now let's go into depth of our body, for example. So we have trillions and trillions of cells within our body, which are kind of working as a machine, I would say, which kind of keeps the balance of the atoms they require to sustain, you know. And why I call each cell as a machine is that it performs some function, and it takes help, I would say, use the nature's different forces and create that balance within that cell and make sure that it but it also acts as a very intelligent machine which has this genetic information within the nucleus, and it knows how to read that information to create copies of itself and create the entire body. But the whole point here is that our body is not one single individual. Definitely it is copies of that one single cell. So you are in fact that single cell divided into trillions of different cells, and which are dying and taking birth every day. Within 5 to 6 to 10 days, most of our cells of our body die, and new ones comes. So it's a process, constant process, and in this process it's just using the atoms from our planet. But now going back to that single cell which multiplied and formed trillions of cells and gave us a fake identity. But when you look at our brain, for example, the neurons, there are trillions and trillions of neurons. They are not even connected to each other. So what they do is there's chemical signals being passed through those neurons and the electrical signals. That is how they are communicating. And what it gives you is a fake identity of me being one. Whereas actually, if you look at body itself, is made up of trillions and trillions of cells, and it will also have more bacteria than our own cells in our body. So you can imagine that this microorganic universe, I call it a microorganic universe because in comparison to the actual universe, we are very small. But is made up of all these trillions of cells, which in fact made up of all the different atoms. But now, how can we call ourselves, first of all, individual? Because we are not. We are, in fact, physically, if you look at us, then we are trillions and trillions of atoms put together, into these cells, which functions and do some in the process do some functions. And all these atoms you look at are coming from the planet Earth, but in fact came from the universe itself, from different star systems. And then we disconnect ourselves and say, no, I am different, me, I'm walking on this earth, but I don't even care, but I'm made up of the same. When you are same material, how can you be different? Now, what is making us different is to survive, these cells need to identify what belongs to itself. So that's why we have a system which basically connects all the parts of our body and gives us a fake feeling that we are different than the atoms around us. And that's why it's very important to make that distinction and understand that actually we are part of the bigger universe. We are exactly same what the bigger universe is made up of. But what is distinguishing us is only one thing, and that is our nervous system, because that wherever our nerves are going and we can feel our body, that is what is our extension. What we think is that's where it ends. But in fact, it is not true. For example, something which is not connected, right? Because when you look at any animals, they are not directly connected to any our planet anymore. Plants are still connected. When you look at the plants, they are connected through roots, right? So they still are getting all those atoms directly from our planet. So they're still connected, but the animals are not. So they can go here and there. Most importantly, what happens is that our brain, which is kind of mesh of these neurons, which are communicating to each other through just space. Actually, they are not connected. If you look at the neurons, they're not connected. They're very much similar to this, and then they're sending these chemical and electrical signals to make decisions, to keep things in memory and get that information back. So when we look at our brain, it's nothing else but it's just collection of memory, basically, and that's how we function. If we don't have memory, we wouldn't be able to function. So, but it's the feeling of why is all artificial, because that is not true. Our nervous system is kind of deciding and telling us that, okay, this is our limit, and then, but in fact, we are fully connected to the universe. Now, when I talked about one single cell, we came from, and the copies of single cell. But where did that first cell came from? If you look at, now you're going to go back and back and back how the life started, and that also started with one single cell, and we are extension of that first cell as well. But when you look at the cell itself, then it is made up of different atoms, and where those all atom came from, then they all came from that first single hydrogen atom, which was formed after the Big Bang. So when you look at that and you perceive that, then in depth and go into quantum mechanics now, then you see that atoms are made up of all these electrons and protons, and then subatomic particles, and so there's other microuniverses existing there as well, right? So there's no limit on the micro side and the mega side. But the whole point of this discussion is that we are part of that. So that single entity that has taken, in my opinion, that has taken different forms and shape, and we are part of that. When you look at the main power, where it came from, where everything came from, that is the one which is taking different shapes and forms and going through all this space and time and all these planets and all these galaxies and all these, one universe to multi-universes, one dimension to multi-dimension. It's only one entity. That is one is existing, and that's the whole topic of this discussion. And instinctively we say I, because that started with that microscopic cell, right? Which nature kind of gave you that opportunity to to think about you as one, and that kind of divided into trillions of cells, and that instinctive I is still there from that single cell. But even if you observe now one single cell, say anywhere in my finger or anywhere in my body, one single cell still might be thinking that that is an individual, and he doesn't. That single cell might not know about entire universe, entire body, which is actually made up of the same material, also existing, and same way we think that I am individual, but we are disconnecting ourselves from the actual universe which we are part of, right? So that is very important. But when I say that it's all form of Krishna or power or God, whosoever you want to call it, what I mean by that is that we are not distinct, we are not different, we are not something, else. We are Him. We are part of that. This universe you observe is not exactly what is there outside. This is all illusion. That's why it's very important to understand the truth through science and through religion, and then you will come to conclusion that you are not different. You are part of that power, the God you call. You're part of that as well. Only thing required, as I mentioned about one cell in my anywhere in my body might think that it's different and not connected with my body, but in reality it is connected, and it is part of me, and it is me also. So same way we are Krishna ourselves. Thank you for watching.